I can dig caves, but I don't need a shovel to do it. I store silver and gold in these caves. I can build bridges, and I can make golden crowns. Everyone needs me at least once in a lifetime, but most people are scared of me. Who am I? I'm a dentist. The mystery of growth. When Mike was 15 years old, he hammered a nail into a cherry tree in his grandmother's garden. He wanted to mark his height. 10 years later, he returned to see if the nail was any higher. If the tree grew 1 inch taller each year, how much higher would the nail be? The nail's position wouldn't change. Trees grow at their top. An orange riddle. Jenny was locked inside a room with 15 other people. Each of them could see the entire room and everyone inside. To do it, they didn't need to turn their heads or bodies or move in any way. To get out of the room, Jenny had to place an orange in such a way that everyone but one person could see it. The girl managed to do it, but how? She put the orange on one person's head. Which one is more expensive? Eric went to the supermarket and took 2 oranges and 1 watermelon. They cost him $6. Helen went to the same supermarket. She opted for a lemon, an orange, and a watermelon. The girl paid $8. Oranges, lemons, and watermelons have different prices per piece. What's more expensive, an orange or a lemon? Eric had 2 oranges and a watermelon, which cost him $6. These 2 kinds of fruit have different prices, so it can't be 2 plus 2 plus 2. The only other combination is 1 plus 1 plus 4. Then, a watermelon costs $4. Helen paid $4 for the watermelon and $1 for the orange. It means the lemon cost her $3, which makes it more expensive than the orange. The worried wife. Jason got into a car accident and lost his memory. When he came around in his hospital room, he saw 3 young women near his bed, but the man couldn't remember who they were. Each of them claimed to be his wife. The doctor told him Jason had to stay in the hospital for at least 1 more week. "Sweetheart, what am I supposed to do if you never remember me?" The woman on the left was sobbing bitterly. "Honey, I'm so worried. Let's go home. I don't like it here. I'll take better care of you at home," the one in the middle exclaimed. The girl on the right was furious. "They're trying to steal you from me. Let's leave this place right away." Which lady is the man's wife? She's the one on the left. She's the only one who's worried. The other 2 want to take Jason away from the hospital, but he's injured and needs medical care. The inheritance. Jim's uncle Archibald was a wealthy man who loved playing pranks on his relatives. That's why, when he passed away, no one could find his will. But one day, a few years later, Jim was looking through some old papers. Suddenly, his breath caught in his throat. The document he was holding was his uncle's will. It read, "I hid all my money and other valuables at 3 p.m. sharp under my favorite cherry tree, right where its shadow ends. The one who digs it out will be my heir." Jim was beyond happy. He was going to be wealthy. He drove to his uncle's posh villa and found the cherry tree. He waited till 3 p.m. and started to dig. But try as he might, his efforts didn't pay off. Confused and upset, he had to return home. Why didn't he find anything? It's been several years since Jim's uncle hid his valuables. The tree has grown taller, and its shadow has become longer too. Who's poor? These two girls are putting on their makeup and getting ready to go out and have fun. They're using pretty much the same things: lipsticks, cosmetics, clothes. Their phones look similar too. But one of these girls is poor. Who is it? Take a closer look at the girl on the left. Her phone gives her away. It's an obvious knockoff. But then again, she saves some money. She won't be poor for long. Who is it? Mark and Liza had been dating for 2 years. One day, the guy came to his girlfriend's house. He was going to propose to her. But when he made it there, he found Liza with another man. Mark was furious. The other guy got scared and rushed out of the house. Liza was shouting it was her brother, but Mark knew better. Unfortunately, he hadn't seen the guy's face clearly. When he ran outside, he saw 3 men. Which one is Liza's lover? It's the guy on the left. It's freezing outside, and the other 2 guys have red cheeks and noses. But the third guy's face is pale because he just left a warm house. A weird choice. Every day, Mark rides his bike to the railway station to get to the college. There are 2 stops near his home. One is a mile away from his house, and the other 2 miles away in the opposite direction. In the morning, he always gets on the train at the first stop, and in the afternoon, he gets off at the second. Why? Mark's home and the stations are on the hill, and this method allows the guy to ride his bike down without any effort. A money problem. A notorious criminal caught rich businessman Brian and locked him in a room. "I won't let you go until you double the money I leave for you." And the criminal put $5,000 on the table. By the time he returned, Brian had already doubled the money. He hadn't left the room or communicated with anyone. Then, how did he do it? He put the money in front of the mirror. A realization. 3 friends fell asleep under a tree in the countryside. While they were resting, a boy painted mustaches on their faces. Once the men woke up, they started to laugh. But then, all of a sudden, they stopped. Why? At first, they saw the mustaches on their friends' faces and found it funny. But then, they realized their friends were laughing too. It meant they had mustaches on their faces as well. Wealthier grandfather. Aaron and his grandfather were very close. They spent a lot of time together and loved cracking detective riddles. Unfortunately, the elderly man passed away unexpectedly. His lawyer informed the relatives that the grandfather had hidden all his money, and he was a wealthy man. The one to find it would get all the inheritance. Aaron realized the grandfather wanted him to get everything. He ran to the elderly man's office and soon understood where to look for the money. Can you figure it out? There's a cross drawn on the picture with a fountain. That's the fountain from their garden. Aaron has to look for the money there. Trapped in a well. James was a famous detective who could crack even the trickiest mysteries. Once, he was investigating a case and found some crucial evidence. The next morning, he woke up in a well. It was old and deep, but luckily not filled with water. On the flip side, there was no way the detective could get out to the surface. Suddenly, James saw his main suspect's face at the top of the well. "You won't live long enough to rat me out," the man shouted. And then, the detective felt soil falling on his head. The guy was going to bury him alive. But in an hour, James was already out of the well and running away. How did he manage to get out? The detective started to shake off and tamp down the soil that was falling into the well. He was getting closer and closer to the surface until he managed to jump out and run away. Stolen documents. Early in the morning, Ashton got a call from his friend, an owner of a big company. The man was in distress. A very important contract had disappeared from his office. It was on the desk the evening before, but nowhere to be found in the morning. Ashton immediately headed to his friend's office to question the employees. In no time, he had 3 suspects. Ben said he'd spent the previous evening at the movies. Mason took his girlfriend out to dinner, and Jesse was invited to a party. It didn't take Ashton long to understand who was lying. It was Ben. His ticket wasn't torn, so he didn't actually go to the movies. Real or fake? Paul decided to visit his elderly aunt he hadn't seen for several months. But when he got to her house, he saw 2 men wearing construction worker uniforms. They were moving out some furniture. "What are you doing here?" Paul asked. "Mrs. Sanders hired us to help her get rid of old furniture. We're from Pick and Carry Transport Company," one of the men answered. He sounded honest. But Paul was a smart guy. He felt there was something wrong about the whole situation. Suddenly, he realized the men were burglars. How did he understand it? There was no company van near his aunt's house, just a dark car with tinted windows. Plus, why were the men wearing construction worker uniforms if they were movers? So, Mia wanted to go to the party her classmate was throwing, but her father didn't let her. Mia thought for a while and remembered her grandparents had just moved to their new 1-story country house. She asked her dad if she could visit them at the weekend, and the man agreed. But Mia went to the party instead. When she got back home after the weekend, her father asked her if she had had a good time. Mia replied she helped in the garden a little and spent the rest of the day upstairs. Her father immediately knew she was lying. How? Mia said she'd been upstairs, but her grandparents' house is a 1-story cottage. Liar, liar, pants on fire. 11 plus 3 equals 2. 10 plus 5 equals 3. Now how is that possible? It makes sense when we talk about time. 11 o'clock plus 3 hours is 2 o'clock. 10 o'clock plus 5 hours is 3 o'clock. One king wants to find out which of his 3 sons is the smartest. He takes 3 chests and puts his crown in one of them. On each chest there's a statement, but only one of these statements is true. The crown is in this chest. The crown isn't in this chest. The crown isn't in chest number 1. Each person can only open one chest. The son who figures out where the crown is will be the next king. But can you solve this riddle? If the first statement is true, the other 2 must be false. It's not so because the second statement turns out to be correct. So this assumption's wrong. If the second statement is true, the crown isn't in the first chest. It's not in the second chest either. Then it must be in the third one. But this makes the third statement correct, although it shouldn't be. If the third statement is true, the first one's wrong and there's no crown in the first chest. The second statement's also wrong. Now there are no contradictions. The crown's in the second chest. Here's a sequence of letters. Which letter should you add? The missing letter is F. If you put it at the end, you'll get E. James and Taylor were best friends in elementary school. Unfortunately, when the children were 10, James and his parents moved to another state. The friends lost contact. 15 years later, James and Taylor accidentally bumped into each other in a cafe. It was their first meeting since school. They recognized each other and started talking. It turned out Taylor was already married and had a daughter. "Wow," said James, "does she look like her dad?" "Oh no," Taylor said, "the girl's a mini version of her mother." "Ah, so she must be a blonde with blue eyes." This time, James was right. How did he understand that? Taylor's a girl. She's the mother, and James only needed to describe her. You're outside a room with 3 switches in the off position. Your task is to find out which one turns on the light in the room. You can flip as many switches as you want, but you can walk into the room and check if the light's on only once. How can you understand which switch controls the light bulb? Turn on 2 random switches and wait for a couple of minutes. Then, turn one of them off and walk into the room. If the light's on, the switch connected to the bulb is the one you left in the on position. If the room's dark, touch the light bulb. If it's hot, then the controlling switch is the one you just turned off. If the light bulb is cold, the correct switch is the only one you haven't touched. Esme got lost in the forest. She was wandering around for the whole day. Finally, at dusk, she saw a spooky house. A witch lived there. The girl had nowhere else to go, so she entered the house and asked for help. The witch said if Esme solved her riddle, she'd be free to leave in the morning. Here's how the riddle went. 17J, 70M, 96A, 162J, 256S, 354, what's the missing letter? The 17th day of the year is in January. The 70th day of the year is in March. The 96th is in April. The 162nd in June. And the day 256 is in September. Day 354 is in December. The missing letter is D. A young girl got her first job as a maid in a rich lady's house. Once, when she was tidying up, she noticed a very expensive collection of books. She made a break to look through one of them and then returned it to the shelf. The girl kept working until the very evening. No one else was at home. After finishing her work, the maid returned to the shelf and discovered that the 6th book was missing. But she clearly remembered that the book had been there before. It was the one she had been looking through. When the lady returned, the girl confessed she'd lost the book. But the woman only laughed and said everything was fine. Nothing was missing. How come? The collection had 8 books. The 9th book was actually the 6th one. The girl accidentally put it upside down. Right before Christmas, the police got information that a famous thief named Alfonso had left Chile. He boarded the plane to Los Angeles. The only thing the detectives knew about the man was that he had a beard. At the airport, the police officers met a group of people. They had just arrived from different countries. The detectives noticed 4 men with beards and interrogated them. The first one said he'd come from London. The second told the police he arrived from Chile, but his name was Cristiano. The third man answered he'd come from Sweden, and the fourth one was also from London. The police didn't even need to check their plane tickets to spot the criminal. How did they know? It's Christmas time, but the man who supposedly came from Sweden is dressed too lightly for that climate. He must have arrived from Chile, where it's summer. A road accident happened on a foggy day. 2 drivers were taken to a hospital. Each of them had a concussion. Interestingly, their cars didn't even have a scratch. What happened? The drivers were going in opposite directions. It was foggy, so they stuck their heads out of the window. They didn't notice each other and hit their heads. Ow! Samantha was born on January 27th. For the first 20 years of her life, she celebrated her birthday in the winter. But starting with her 21st birthday, she began celebrating it in the summer. Why? She moved to the southern hemisphere, where it's summer in January. 2 sisters, Ava and Nicole, are very honest girls. They always tell the truth, except for one day a year. On their birthdays, they always lie. Today is September 17th, and you ask them when their birthdays are. Ava says hers was yesterday, and Nicole says her birthday is tomorrow. The next day, you ask them again, and they say the exact same thing. Can you guess when their birthdays are? They can't have 2 birthdays. It means that one day one of them lied, and the next day it was the other's turn. Since Ava mentioned yesterday, her birthday must come first. So Ava's birthday is on September 17th, and Nicole's on September 18th. Bethany, Tommy, Eliza, and James spent the whole day at home alone. Their mother didn't let them enter her room. When she came back in the evening, she wanted to eat her chocolate bar, but it was gone. She went downstairs and asked the kids who had eaten her treat. Bethany said she'd been doing her algebra homework the whole day and hadn't eaten anything at all. Tommy replied he had been playing football outside. Eliza said she didn't even know where their mom kept chocolate. And James simply claimed it hadn't been him. Their mom knew immediately who had taken her chocolate. How did she figure it out? It was Eliza. The mother never mentioned what kind of treat was missing, but Eliza somehow knew it was chocolate. The father of identical quadruplets, Aurora, Belle, Chloe, and Dana, called the teacher and asked her to let Dana leave earlier. She had a doctor's appointment. The teacher couldn't tell the girls apart. To have some fun, the quadruplets refused to confess who was who, but gave their teacher a hint. Chloe is somewhere in the middle. Dana is to the left of Belle and to the right of Aurora. Aurora is right next to Dana. How can the teacher identify the girls? Chloe is somewhere in the middle, and since Dana has someone on both sides of her, she must be in the middle too. If Chloe was the second, Dana would be the third. Then Dana would be to the left of Belle, and Belle would be the fourth. Then Aurora must be the first. But it doesn't work, because Aurora and Dana have to be next to each other. If we switch Chloe and Dana, Dana will be right next to Aurora, but still to the left of Belle. So the right order is Aurora, Dana, Chloe, and Belle. Dana's the second girl.
Welcome to Brightside U. You've got one more final before break, all riddles. Jot down your answers, and we'll see what your score means at the end of the video. The university president's looking nervous. He gets to his office and opens the door. It's the end of the semester, and all the students are about to take their finals, except Intro to Geography. The teacher had to postpone that final for some reason. When he sits at his desk, he discovers that someone's been rummaging through his papers. They've stolen the physics final. How did they get in if the door and windows were closed? I'll give you 7 seconds for this one. That ventilation panel above the president's desk, it's been moved. Someone crawled all the way through there. Impressive. But who did it? To answer that, you need to solve a bunch of other riddles first. Then maybe you'll figure out the mystery at the end of the video. The president leaves his office and walks down the hall. There's a loud crack, and the power goes out all over the building. Someone must have flipped all the fuses. He heads down to the break room to see what's up. I mean, he's the president after all. Yep, someone's been messing around down here. There's 3 suspects in the room. The cleaner says somebody turned off the generator when he came in to clean. Rachel's a new transfer student. She says she totally got lost and ended up in here by accident. Simon's a junior. He has his phone in his hand. Says he was playing one of those video games where you have to find stuff. Which one of them shut off the power? Your 7 seconds starts now. It was Rachel. It's the end of the semester. She wouldn't have transferred right before finals. But why did she do it? Maybe she wanted to disrupt the physics final. He turns the power back on. Ugh, hungry. Probably a good time to grab a quick snack. When he gets to the cafeteria, there's a new problem waiting for him. Someone emptied a whole bag of sugar into a huge pot of soup. Which student was it? You have 7 seconds. All the suspects have bowls of soup in front of them, but one of them doesn't have a spoon, just a fork. He was never going to eat the soup. He knew it would taste disgusting. Just as the president finishes up his sandwich, he gets a text. It's from a professor. He needs help in his office ASAP. In the office are 3 students, standing around and looking guilty. The professor claims one of them graffitied the painting on his wall. Which one did it? You've got 7 seconds to figure it out. It's that one. She's covering her hands. There's probably some paint on her fingers that she's trying to hide from you. Next stop, the infamous physics exam. The president heads over to the exam room. Everything's quiet in there. Looks okay. All the students have their heads down, staring at their papers. But someone's cheating. The president can sense it somehow. Help him find the sneaky student. 7 seconds to scan the room. It's the guy with his legs crossed. Clever. He wrote the answers on his calf muscle. But where did he even get those answers? After a brief shakedown, he spills the beans. He got them from a friend. That hassle's over. Time for a coffee and a snack. A big one. But just then, a piercing beep smashes through the silence. The fire alarm! Oh, come on. Students file out of their classrooms, and the entire university has to be evacuated. The students are standing outside, looking at the building. No fire, no smoke even. The president gets a text from the alarm company. The alarm was triggered by a person, not a smoke detector. The president looks around. Time to round up the usual 4 suspects. Matt says he was in the bathroom when the alarm came on. Julia was taking the geography final. Clark and Lex were studying strange green meteorites together in the science lab. Which one of them is lying? You have 7 seconds starting now. It was Julia. The geography teacher postponed the final, remember? Why would she lie unless she had something to hide? Today's not really his day. Someone cut down a tree right in the middle of the quad. The caretaker saw 4 students hanging out under the tree this morning, and now it's gone. Time to interview the suspects. Emily says she's been in the library all day. Loads of people saw her. Sam claims he was in the cafeteria having some soup. Lewis was in the physics final. And Michael says he's been hitting the weights all day, trying to get buff for the beach. Who cut down the tree? Your 7 seconds starts now. It was obviously Sam. He said he was having some soup, but remember, if he had really been in the cafeteria, he would have mentioned the whole sugar thing. Plus, the president was in there and didn't see him. He's lying. On to the biology final. They've got a new teacher who's giving a unique type of final. The president sneaks in the back of the room. The teacher explains that she gave her students ficus seeds at the beginning of the semester. Whoever has the most beautiful ficus plant will get the highest grade. It's time to present the results. The students start to file into the classroom. Half of them are holding pots with beautiful green ficus trees. The other half have pots filled with plain old earth, no leaves, no nothing. The teacher says the students with empty pots all get an A. Why did the teacher do that? Solve this mystery in 7 seconds. Go! At the beginning of the semester, she gave everyone fake ficus seeds. The students who showed up with full-blooming plants must have bought a full-grown plant and stuck it in the pot. Ha! Busted! Last final of the day, philosophy. The young teacher is in there, waiting for all the students to take their seats. After that, he puts a bust of an ancient Greek philosopher on the table. The teacher says, "Write a short essay on the following topic: why this bust doesn't exist." The student with the most convincing argument gets an A, while everyone else gets a C. Huh, tough teacher. After an hour, the students hand in their papers. Most of them filled up the front and back, but one student only wrote 2 words, and she got the A. What did she write? I'll give you 7 seconds to figure it out. She wrote, "What bust?" The president heads outside again, this time for the parking lot. What? Someone took the tire right off of his car. How's he gonna get home? He still has a spare tire in his trunk, but the thieves took the bolts too. All 4 of them. What can he do? You have 7 seconds to come up with a plan. He needs to unscrew one bolt from each of the other 3 tires and attach them to the spare. Each tire now has 3 bolts. That'll be enough to get to the nearest service station. What an intense day. The president's ready to kick back for a few, but he gets another urgent text. There's broken glass all over the quad. Someone broke a window up there. The only 3 people around are a cook, a gardener, and a student. The cook says he's been boiling up a new soup for the last hour, since someone put sugar in the last one. The gardener admits he was up in a tree cutting branches. He saw a student break the glass. The student says he was studying in the library. I'll give you 7 seconds to figure out who's lying. The gardener's lying. How could he have been up in the tree? It had already been stolen. He broke the glass, probably just by accident. The day's finally over. The president heads over for the best tradition on campus, the post-finals party. It's in the basketball arena. There are lights, decorations, and even a DJ. Everyone's dressed up, looking relieved. Finals are over. The party goes all night, but around 4 a.m., someone accidentally slams the doors too hard, and it triggers the automatic locks. Everyone's trapped. The president can be the hero of the party. He just needs to find a way out, grab the spare keys from his office, and open the door from the outside. But how? One of the students, Eric, says he knows how to get out of the gym through a vent. The president looks at him, and his face goes red with anger. Why? Last riddle, 7 seconds. You can do it. Eric just gave himself away. He's obviously been in the ventilation shafts before, so it was probably him who stole the physics final. How did you do? Count up your correct answers, and let's see how you fared on your final exam. 0 to 3 points. Looks like you'll need to sign up for some classes over break. Keep watching Riddle videos. You'll get better in no time. 4 to 7 points. Solid B+, but I'm sure you can do better next time. 8 to 12 points. You nailed that final. Leave your books in your locker and enjoy your well-deserved vacation.
You suddenly wake up trapped in a dark room. Your only source of light is a candle. There are 2 doors in front of you. Behind one of them, there's a tunnel that will lead you outside to freedom. Behind the other, just a cold brick wall. You have a key that will open only one of the doors, and you can try it just once. So how do you know which door to try? Hold the candle up to each keyhole. The flame will move near the door that leads outside. You escape to freedom, but you need to send some important documents to your friend Beth. You can't mail them in a regular package because the precious papers will get stolen. So you put them in a box and lock it. But Beth doesn't have the key to this lock. How can you send the papers if you can't send the key to the lock separately? First, send the lock box to Beth. She'll attach her own lock and send the box back to you. Then remove your own lock and send the package again. Beth can then remove her lock and finally open the package. Bad news. You get a call one morning from Beth. She says the crucial documents were stolen from her office. They'd been on the desk the evening before, but are nowhere to be found this morning. You immediately go there to question the employees. In no time, you gather 3 suspects. Sean said he had been at the movies last night. Michael had taken his girlfriend to an amusement park. And Christina was at a prestigious art gallery. Who's lying? Sean. His movie ticket isn't torn. Having been caught red-handed, Sean makes a break for it. He hops in his car and drives away. Law enforcement are on the lookout. Sean sees a police car right ahead of him and starts driving toward it. Why would he do that? He was on a bridge. He needed to go toward the patrol car to get to the other side and make his escape. No such luck for poor Sean. He gets caught and locked up. But he starts hearing rumors of an inmate planning to break out. The guards have 2 suspects. First, a quiet bookworm who spends most of his days with his nose buried in sci-fi novels. The second, a big burly tattooed guy who's always working out. Who should Sean become friends with if he wants to get out of here? The bookworm. Look closer, and you'll see his bookmark is actually a file. On Friday afternoon, the owner of that same prestigious art gallery discovered that 4 of the most famous artists' self-portraits had been stolen during an exhibition. The police show up to do an investigation, and now they have 3 suspects. Sarah, the artist, said she disappeared into one of the studios to paint. John, the security guard, explained he was just waiting outside and had no idea the portraits were gone. Daniel, the caterer, stated he was at a nearby store picking up extra napkins when the robbery took place. So, who's the thief? It's the security guard. He couldn't have known the stolen paintings were portraits if he was standing outside. As fate would have it, there was another incident that night. Michael, who never really liked what passed for art in modern times, rushed into the gallery and caused millions of dollars worth of damage to several paintings. Yet the gallery's owner thanked him for his actions. How come? Michael is a firefighter. The water from his hose damaged several masterpieces, but he still managed to extinguish the fire and save many more works. They awarded Michael a big check in gratitude. He heads home just in time to get his 5 kids all packed up for a camping trip that weekend. Mike and his wife are really looking forward to having the weekend for themselves to relax. But when they woke up on Saturday, they discovered the check was missing from their safe. Once the officers showed up, they interviewed the 3 people who were in the house that morning. The chef said he was in the kitchen getting school lunches packed. The cleaner said he finished cleaning quickly that day and left early. The butler had just gotten back after taking the kids to camp 3 hours away. Who's lying? It's the chef. It's Saturday, so there's no school, and the kids have gone camping. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, a scientist is working on something bizarre. He invites Kevin and Claire as blind test subjects for his new serum invention. He gives them each a glass of ice-cold lemonade. Kevin drinks his fast, but Claire apprehensively waits to see the side effects on him first. After 2 hours, nothing happens, so she drinks her glass. 2 minutes later, her skin turns green. If both the drinks had the serum, why was only Claire affected? The serum was in the ice. Since Kevin drank his fast, none of it got in the lemonade. Claire runs out of the lab in horror. She gets in her car and speeds off. As she's driving down a long, empty road, one of her tires pops off. Good thing she has a spare in the trunk. But here's the problem. She now has no lug nuts to put the spare on with. So what should Claire do? Unscrew one lug nut from each of the other 3 wheels and use them to attach the spare tire. It'll be enough to get to the nearest garage safely. As Claire is putting on her spare tire, the scientist catches up to her. He hands her 4 pills and tells her it's a complex cure to the green face serum. 2 of the pills are an antidote, and the other 2 are a catalyst that activates it. Claire must take 1 of each type together. If she takes 2 of the same, her face will stay green forever. Just as the scientist is handing her the pills, he trips and they get all mixed up. They look identical. What should Claire do? Grind the tablets up, mix all the powder together, and divide it in 2 parts. Each half will have the same amount of catalyst and antidote. It worked, and just in time. Whew! The next day, Claire has a big calculus exam. But funny enough, all the students in the class refuse to take it. Professor Miller can expel only 1 student for skipping the test. All of them know each other's names. If a student knows they'll be expelled, they agree to take the test. How can the professor make all the students take it? She should tell them she'll expel the student whose name comes first alphabetically. Then this person won't skip the test. The next person on the list won't skip either, and so on until the end of the list. The next day, class isn't any easier. Professor Miller grabs her cup of coffee, takes a sip, goes to set it down, and what's this? It's stuck to her hand. Somebody put glue on the cup, and she's got 3 suspects. Look carefully to find out which student is playing tricks on the professor. Sure, the first student has an awfully guilt-ridden look on his face, and the second student's smile looks just like pride for a job well done. But look closer at the third student's pocket. Yep, it's the tip of a glue bottle. Professor Miller is so annoyed by her class's shenanigans, she decides to change her career. Wow. She opens a shoe factory. She's so successful that she builds a second one in another city. But despite her success, the problems don't end. Her employees keep secretly taking shoes from the plant. What can she do to resolve the issue? Have one of her factories start making only left shoes and the other only right ones. One of those shoe swipers is driving a semi-truck full of shoes to sell for a profit. He comes to a tunnel and there's a major problem. His truck is just an inch too tall. But he can still drive through the tunnel. How? Let some of the air out of the tires. It'll lower the truck just enough. When the shoe swiper gets through the tunnel, he comes to a fork in the road. One goes to the town, the other to never-ending wilderness. There are guides standing at each. The catch? One always tells the truth, the other always lies. The driver doesn't know who's who, and he's only allowed one question. What should he ask to find out which road goes to town? Ask either one of the guides which road the other would say is the right way. Then he must choose the opposite. The truth teller knows the other will lie, so they'll point the driver toward the road to nowhere. If he asks the liar, they'll know the other guard would honestly point him toward the town, so they'll again recommend the road to nowhere. The shoe thief takes the road to town, but he has another puzzle to answer before he's allowed to enter. The guard at the gate asks him one simple question. What's the logic in the order of the following words? Fun, blue, bee, more, and dive. Every word rhymes with its number on the list. Fun 1, blue 2, bee 3, and so on. The shoe swiper finally settles down in this new town. Too bad for him, he can only use a payphone to make calls. One day, the phone breaks. He informs the phone company, but they do nothing. He tries again the next day. Same result. The third time, he finally gets them to come out and fix the phone. So, what did he say? He claimed that people were making calls without paying. A wet mystery. Mother and father living in the north of Canada went shopping, leaving their teenage son home. He said he wanted to mount his new TV on the wall. They were halfway to the mall when Mother remembered she'd left the iron plugged in. They returned and found the house freezing cold. Mother turned on central heating again and they left for good. When they came back after a while, there was water dripping from the ceiling on the first floor, and on the second, their son was lying unconscious in a pool of water on the floor, and the TV was hanging on the wall askew. Can you guess what happened? The young man hauled a big chunk of ice upstairs to stand on it while he mounted the TV. He turned off the heat for the ice to stay frozen, but when his mom turned it on again, the chunk melted and the boy slipped and fell. A code number. A detective who had been mere days away from cracking an international criminal gang has suddenly gone missing. But he was smart enough to try and help the investigators in their search by leaving one clue, more specifically, a special code: 710-57735-34 5508-517718. The police have 3 prime suspects: John, Bill, and Adam. Can you break the detective's code and help the police arrest the right criminal? The numbers in the detective's code represent letters. If you read the message upside down, you'll notice that it says, Bill is boss. He sells oil. So, Bill's your guy. Cuff him, boys. A lousy alibi. A man had been strolling through the park when someone suddenly hit him on the back of the head. Witnesses say the culprit had brown hair, blue eyes, and was wearing a baggy suit. The main suspect is Sean Baker, who matches the description perfectly. The police interrogate Sean, who gives his account of what happened. "I was just hanging out in the park, and I saw this man walking along the pathway. Then some other guy suddenly sprang out of the shrubs right in front of him and hit him. I ran home as fast as I could." The police ask him to give a description of the attacker. He answers, he had a red mustache, red hair, and a baggy suit on. However, one of the investigators says Sean is lying. How does he know? Sean claims that the attacker came up in front of the man, but that's complete nonsense. The man had been hit on the back of his head. Strange noises. Amy and Carl were lying in bed at night when they heard weird noises from their daughter Stacy's bedroom. Amy went to see and carefully opened the door, but saw her teenage daughter fast asleep and the noise stopped. The next night, it all happened again, and in the morning, Amy found a snakeskin lying under Emily's bed. Alarmed, the family searched the whole house but couldn't find the snake that left it. Still, the sound persisted every night. Can you guess where the snake was hiding? It was in the walls. At night, when it was quiet, the snake would crawl out in the open, but when everyone woke up again, it hid inside the pipes and between the boards. A careless granddaughter. Sally went to the drugstore to get some meds for her grandma. The pharmacist looked at the prescription and handed her 4 identical pills, 2 for pressure and another 2 for her legs. He warned Sally that Grandma should take 1 of each kind a few hours before bedtime. The girl nodded and dropped the pills into her bag. As she got home, Sally realized what she did wrong. There were 4 completely identical pills in her bag, all mixed up. But when it was time for Grandma to take the pills, Sally figured a way out. What did she do? The only way out of this situation is to split all the pills in half and take 1/2 of each pill. This way, Grandma will definitely get the right meds. The chicken matter. Sally's grandma, yep, that same one, got 3 hens that gave her 3 eggs in 3 days. When Sally found this out, she decided selling eggs could be a good business. So she got her grandma 12 more hens of the same kind. Sally can't wait to get her profit, who wouldn't be? But she's not that great at math. Can you help her figure out how many eggs Grandma will get in the next 15 days? Three hens brought Grandma 3 eggs in 3 days. It means 1 hen brings 1 egg once in 3 days. So it'll give 5 eggs in 15 days. Now that we've got 15 hens, we can easily multiply the numbers and get 75 eggs in 15 days. A window to freedom. Jack is thrown in a cell with a dirt floor and only one window positioned so high no one could reach it. The cell is empty except for a shovel. It's dry and hot in there, but Jack won't get any food or drink anytime soon. He has only 2 days to break out of his cell. Digging a tunnel would take at least a week. How should Jack escape? He should use the shovel to make a pile of dirt under the window, climb on it, and escape from the cell. Seriously, who secures prisoners this way? Back to school. On the first day of the school year, a geography teacher vanished. The police had as many as 4 suspects. They were the gardener, the math teacher, the coach, and the school principal. The sticking point was that they all had alibis. The gardener was cutting bushes. The math teacher was holding a mid-year test. The coach was playing basketball. The principal was in the office with parents of one of the students. Despite this, the culprit was arrested immediately. Can you guess how the police solved the mystery? The math teacher was lying. According to his words, he was holding a mid-year test, but the geography teacher disappeared on the first day of the school year. Late delivery. A lonely old man lived in his house in the suburbs of a city. He led a quiet life and never left his dwelling for long. It was a midsummer Friday when the mail carrier walked by and called out for the man. There was no answer coming from inside the house. The carrier looked into the window and, oh no! He saw the house was a total mess, and the owner was nowhere to be seen. When the police arrived, they found a Tuesday's newspaper, 2 bottles of warm milk, and 1 bottle of cold milk. The next day, the robber was arrested. How did the police find out who it was so quickly? It was obviously the mail carrier. He knew that no one in that house would read a newspaper on Wednesday or Thursday. That's why he only came on Friday. There's chemistry between them. A famous chemist went missing. There was no evidence found except for a piece of paper with the names of chemical substances on it. On the day he disappeared, the chemist had only 3 visitors: his wife, Mary, his nephew, Nicholas, and his friend, Jonathan. The police looked at the note and arrested the culprit right away. Who was it, and how did they find it out? It was Nicholas, the chemist's nephew. If you combine the short names of the chemical substances on the paper, you'll get his name: Nicolas. An untouchable car. A man was found unconscious in his own car. The police found a rock near the man, and it was obvious he had been hit on the head with it. But the car windows were intact, and the door was locked. How could someone throw a rock into the car without damaging it? The car was a convertible, and when the rock was thrown, the roof had been down. A public collapse. One city was having a rough patch. Its schools, hotels, and public transport weren't functioning because of a strike that had already lasted for several weeks. One night, someone hit the mayor of the city over the head. The man was rushed to a hospital, and the police arrested 3 suspects. Brandon stated that he had been walking along the street when he heard someone scream, but it was too dark and he couldn't see anything. John confirmed that he had heard a call for help as well, but he was too scared to check it out. As for Dylan, he claimed that he had been waiting for a bus at a bus stop and hadn't heard anything. Who attacked the mayor? It was Dylan. He couldn't be waiting for a bus since they hadn't been running for several weeks because of the strike.